All right, we're back. Get rid of this fuzzy camera though. All right, cool. So we left off last talking about TCP IP, and what we want to do now is we want to pivot to a little bit more of what Chainlink is doing for the verifiable web, right? And so, why does it look like it's frozen? Cool. So we left off last talking about TCP IP. All right, that's fine. So the Chainlink, the platform for building the verifiable web, that's what Chainlink's goal is. They want to build out the new crypto infrastructure, which they're calling the verifiable web. This was written in the back half of 2023, so it's not the most recent article, but a lot of what they say in here still pertains to how they view things today. Let me move my picture up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Whoops. So, manipulation in the modern world. Sergey is the co-founder of Chainlink, and he says, when I look around, I see a few problems in society that the technology that we're building can solve. The first thing that Chainlink can help overcome is the immense amount of manipulation going on in every aspect of society. This is something that's a common theme throughout the world, whether it be in banking, whether it be in markets. You've probably even seen recently in the markets, as recent as a few years ago, where AMC or GameStop, all of these market manipulations go on. That is by the people, or does it look like it's too bright in my face? I just got a notification. How's that? Is that still too bright? All right. Okay, hopefully that's better. The first thing that of course, Chainlink can do is overcome the immense amount of manipulation going on in every aspect of society, okay? In the financial world, people are manipulated by large institutions and smaller groups. In the world of information, very few people can rely on the news or social media. This isn't something that's new. This is something that is reiterated throughout even all aspects of media today. And what Chainlink wants to do, as we've seen in the past, Chainlink wants to bring verifiable data on chain, either by stacking up against other data points or going to known sources where the data can be trusted. Chainlink wants to bring data on chain that is verifiable and trustable, because if we start at the essence, if we start with something that's verifiable and true, it is hard to then degrade backward to that. But if we were to start at something that's bad, it is a lot harder to get to something that's good. Now, with the emergence of AI, we're unfortunately going to see even more manipulation, even amongst certain individuals who have access to extremely powerful computing systems. The world of manipulation is increasing. You might be asking, okay, well, how does AI play into this? When developing AI, a lot of people are skeptical that the biases of the developers are going to be inherited by the AI systems, that the code or the frameworks by which these developers put into the AI systems, that the AI is going to then ingest that and project their biases onto users. Similarly, trading with bots, otherwise known as algo trading, isn't something that's new to trading in crypto or trading stocks as a whole. There's a very famous book out there, I believe it's by Michael Lewis, called Flash Boys. It's very interesting, and it really talks about the invention and the implementation of these very quick bots that trade on open markets. And to actually get ahead of the competition, people move their servers closer to the servers of the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ so that these trades could happen automatically. And when these trades happen automatically, they happen within a fraction of a second. So if you're trying to beat your competitors, if you're trying to get ahead by them, you're talking milliseconds upon milliseconds faster than them to make a few dollars. So to do so, they move their computing closer to where the trades actually took place. Think about it like if you have a digital trade book or a digital order book, you still have to send the trade in. If there wasn't digital, you'd have to call in, right? So you had to beat the competition to call in. This is the very same manner. You had to beat the competition by getting your trade in over the internet first, and thus by moving closer to the competition, you could place those trades before them. In crypto, algo trading is nothing new. Because everything happens on chain, it's actually more common to see algorithmic trading because the traders can set the parameters to sell at a certain price, to buy when something else happens. And because everything is happening within code, it's a lot easier for these bots to see what's going on, to ingest that data, and then to make actions depending on that. And so when people say algo trading, that simply means algorithmic trading. And algorithmic trading is just using an algorithm or an equation full of parameters to produce an outcome. The second aspect of creating a manipulation-resistant world relates to information. If you can't access truthful information about what's going on inside the system you're about to join, you can't understand what you're signing up for. So again, the first thing is that Chainlink is going to help overcome the immense amount of manipulation that has to do with all of the data, the immense amounts of data. And then you have the second aspect that Chainlink is going to help with in creating a manipulation-resistant world as it pertains to the data and the information that is sourced from that data. If you can't access truthful information about what's going on inside the system that you're about to join, you can't understand what you're signing up for. This goes for anything in the world. If you can't understand why stocks are buying and selling, or you don't have the information that these other traders are using, you are going to be behind the curve and stand to lose a lot more money than you would if you had the same playing field. Both manipulated systems and unverifiable misinformation lead to reactive fixes. When something goes wrong in society, complaints are met with excuses, inadequate fixes are proposed, and then an even worse version of that fix is implemented. And it all happens again and again. We can see this countless times in government. We can see it in full-fledged organizations where time moves a lot slower there, and by time moving slower, it's a lot harder to implement things. You have a lot more hands in the cookie jar, and when all of this happens, you're a lot more susceptible to misinformation, to reactive fixes instead of thinking through things and being precise with being precise with the decision making. The good news is that we have the technology to solve these problems. Creating verifiable user-controlled systems empowers anyone to understand what the system is before they join and then leave the system whenever they want. This degree of user control and verifiability will become increasingly important as more and more of the world's systems become manipulated and opaque. So we're going to copy this over to our notes section. Oh, it is not. There we go. A manipulation-resistant world built on the verifiable web. The world that I would like to live in, and where I believe most of you would like to live in, is a world where I can understand a system before I enter it, and on an ongoing basis, whether it's a financial system, an informational system, or any other system. I want a verifiable proof of how it works, the deterministic guarantees of the system, and the conditions under which I can leave. At a high level, this is the world we are building with blockchains, smart contracts, decentralized oracles, and trust minimized compute. Through cryptographic truth, we're building a verifiable web where users can make informed choices because they can know and verify exactly what the system is doing. Because code is law, people can see in the decentralized web, the open web, what is going on and what is going to take place. All of this is described within the code. You can see the actions that are going to take place. And because you can see what leads to something else, what input leads to what outputs, you can make informed decisions about what you want to do. This isn't the case in the world today. If you put your money into a bank, you don't know how the bank is going to invest those funds. You can, with somewhat certainty, assume that they're going to lend it out, but you don't know what they're going to lend it out to or to who. So you don't know if they're going to be risk averse, if they're going to be risk seeking, or if they're going to lose your money altogether. All of which, if they lose that money, you don't get back. So the verifiable web offers 3 key improvements. Know what you're getting into because you can proactively verify everything about a system before entering into it, knowing it can't change. Know what is going on by utilizing verifiable crypto. Okay, so let's backtrack a second here. The verifiable web offers 3 key improvements. Number 1, you get to know what you're getting into because you can proactively verify everything about a system before entering that system, knowing that it can't change. Okay, everything that happens on the blockchain, once it happens, it is final. It has hit finality and it can't be changed. The second thing is that you get to know what is going on by utilizing verifiable cryptographic truth to avoid misinformation and know what is actually going on in the system that you're in. So again, because everything is finalized, you can look back at the previous transaction and know what has occurred to make informed decisions about what you want to do moving forward. And then lastly, you can proactively decide on whether you should leave the system because it's a user-controlled system that clearly defines how you can leave the system. So this is, again, like calling into Comcast and them giving you a runaround about why you can't leave the system. No. With everything on the open web, it is up to you if you want to join or leave the system. There is no hooks, there's no gimmicks, there's nothing that's keeping you there other than your decisions themselves. Can I see... I don't think I can do this. All right, whatever. How the verifiable web transforms society. So number 1, it transforms the financial system. This is a very interesting graphic. And here they're showing the manipulation of financial products and how the manipulation of those financial products affects all of us and other markets. So here they're using 3 major financial manipulation use cases. You have Enron, you have Lehman Brothers, and you have Silicon Valley Bank. Enron at the time when they filed for bankruptcy was one of the largest bankruptcies in the world, along with Lehman Brothers in 2008 that sent shockwaves around the world, leading to the 2008 collapse. And then more recently you have the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, where they filed for bankruptcy, which is more of a collaborated front on the lenders or the banks making a run on Silicon Valley Bank. The financial system currently operates in a reactive mode where bad actors can manipulate information to make false promises, such as misrepresenting the value of assets. When these systems implode, it's the users that are left paying the costs. From Enron to Lehman Brothers to Silicon Valley Bank, these failures to centralized systems have occurred too many times. How do we get to a manipulation-resistant world? We combine blockchains, smart contracts, and decentralized Oracle networks to create verifiable applications that provide cryptographically guaranteed representations about how they work. Anyone can analyze the math and code to understand how they actually work and make informed choice about using them. Again, all the code, all the math is in the blockchain on the web for people to look at. So even if you don't understand, you can almost guarantee that someone else who understands the code, who understands the constructs, has verified this, has looked it over, and has moved forward with either agreement or disagreement with that product. Take Linux, for example. Linux is an open source operating system. And because of that, many people have tried their hand at Linux, read the code, and made statements about if they agree with it or they don't agree with it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can take this code down, but by waving a red flag, people can see, okay, should I trust this? Should I not trust this? And that would be a simple search either through an AI or through a Google search that you'd be able to find information related to this product. The verifiable web solves key problems for financial markets. Everyone can understand a system before they deposit their assets, which is very nice, and knows what's going on with their assets on an ongoing basis and withdraw their funds at any point. Ultimately, this will increase personal accountability and help limit unfair bailouts for anyone taking excessive risks. This, let's actually, let me take a pause right here. Whoops. Okay, so I want to go back to this graphic here and what crypto can do that we've talked about with the firm or other products in the past is banking the unbanked. When I say banking the unbanked, I mean giving banking products or allowing people who don't have access to financial products. And what crypto can do that we've talked about with the firm or other products in the past. Okay, sorry. So what, excuse me. Okay, let's get back to it. So, what crypto can do is much. Yeah. So, the verifiable web can also transform developing economies in four major ways. The first way is it can bank the unbanked. It can bring banking products to people who aren't or don't have access to traditional banking products, such as a savings, a checkings account, investment accounts. And by putting digital wallets in their hands, they're now able to access DeFi and other lending platforms that they wouldn't have otherwise had access to in their place of residence. The second thing they can do is they can get insurance for risk management. So there are products out there that allow people to insure different things outside of their domain. So if you lived in a third world country and you couldn't get access to these insurance products, now you can get access to them because you're accessing a wider pool. The third thing is you now have a global supply chain that has now access to sell globally. If you think about how a company works, their supply chain is very confined, right? They want to keep economies of scale. They want to keep everything as cheap as possible for them to move things around to then sell to us at higher prices. But once the supply chains around the world are interconnected and you can see what is trading for what and where everything is moving and how it's moving, how long it takes to get somewhere, the global supply chain becomes more interconnected and people can pick and choose what goods they want to interact with. And then lastly, you now have the availability to have a direct investment possible due to smart contracts. If you recall in some of our previous streams or our previous shorts, tokenized assets allow people to invest in real world assets that they may not otherwise have access to. There's also more rules and regulations around investing today and having certain requirements before you can invest in different assets. So by bringing these assets on chain and bringing these real world assets to the public, allowing them to interact with other demographics, you not only make it more liquid, but you give them more availability to have these direct investments in other products. Yellow.
Hi, I'm on my way back.
Okay.
I'm canceling tomorrow for, what's it? Tomorrow is the 20th? Yeah. I'm canceling tomorrow because I am so, like, she was such a good person. Like, I'm like, jealous right now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so Justine and I are going to try, well, so there's another place called Highlight, which was in College Park,
Mm-hmm.
and she signed up for Highlight because they just opened it while she was going to cancel this membership. But since I liked coming here, she was deciding like if she's gonna stick with Highlight or stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna try Highlight on Thursday to see like if because she's never been to that studio in Oviedo. Plus it's closer. Um, so we're gonna try that one on Thursday and see which one we like better.
Okay.
Yeah, but I am absolutely jealous. Did he poop?
Nope.
Oh, I'm not taking the poop.
Okay. I love you. I'll see you soon.
I love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. So, developing economies often don't have the frameworks and systems necessary to support a banking system, insurance, global supply chains, and direct capital investments. This matters because they're the key ingredients to a better economic future, and billions of people don't have access to them. To thrive, they need to be able to save money that's stable and in their control, protect their livelihood against adverse events, participate in the global marketplace, and finance growth. The verifiable web can provide these people with a parallel system of contracts that provide access to stablecoins, parametric insurance, a public global marketplace, and alternative funding sources. That is all what we just talked about. The parametric insurance is just a risk adjusted insurance using an algorithm. Again, you're going to see algorithms a lot with blockchain products because they are all done with code and they all have native data on chain. So because this data resides on chain and is readily available, you do have the ability now to create these agents, these agentic AIs, to then go process this data and provide better products than if a human or a company per se was developing these products by hand. Similar to how emerging economies skipped libraries and landlines and gained access to the world's information and communications via mobile phones and internet access, an internet of contracts on the verifiable web can provide the benefits that a framework provides without waiting for it to be built. This will create real economic growth and prosperity among emerging markets. Why did that happen? There we go. Okay. The third thing that the verifiable web can do is enhance the transfer of information. We're in a world where the majority of the public don't trust the news or social media. With information increasingly being manipulated to serve economic or political goals, individuals are unable to make informed decisions. This problem is only going to get worse as even people with limited resources will be able to disseminate false information at a greater scale using AI. Verifying information and providing provenance with cryptographic signatures can help establish ground truths for society that are widely accepted. This will help previously divided groups find common ground and protect against AI-generated information. This is talking about the verifiable web. Chainlink has provided the most cryptographic truths in history, with over 10 billion cryptographic truth data points delivered on chain. Chainlink has been a catalyst for the growth in crypto on-chain data. Again, I know this is over a year old, but this is still holding true. We can go check out how many data points that they've delivered. That number is going to steadily be increasing because they are going to continue providing truthful data in a manner that they know works. With over 10 billion data points delivered on chain, the Chainlink network has delivered the most cryptographic truths in history. This has predominantly come in the form of market data that can't be manipulated as there was immense demand from DeFi. What this is saying is that due to all the different markets that are created on chain with all of the different networks and tokens, they need a way to get all of that market and price information. Chainlink was able to provide that information cross-chain to different applications, to different people that want to buy and purchase tokens. And because DeFi had reached such a high in 2023, they were providing numerous data points day in and day out. Beyond cryptographic truth, cryptographically guaranteed compute and connectivity, cryptographic truth alone isn't sufficient to build a verifiable application that has deterministic outcomes and enables users to leave at any time. That's why we developed the ability to provide verifiable cryptographically guaranteed compute and connectivity. Together, the Chainlink platform has three key building blocks needed to build a verifiable application on chain: data, compute, and connectivity. Wow, this is very extensive. This is a diagram of, so this is a very cool diagram. This is how functions combines any API with any off-chain computation. So Chainlink functions is a way for these blockchains to connect and interact with APIs that are off-chain and then bring that data on-chain. And it's a very cool application. And so Chainlink has what's called the Dawn, or the decentralized Oracle network. And so it provides developers a level of flexibility to this Oracle network, to let them use this in a secure way. So this is more flexible, self-service, and expansive way for providing Web3 services, reflects where the platform is heading more generally. We're now in a world where Chainlink platform, wow, that's intense. So why? Okay, we've talked about this before about CCIP, but one of the things that this outlines here, this is a great graphic. Why do banks why do capital markets need CCIP? CCIP stands for Cross-Chain Interoperability Protocol, and it's something that is developed by Chainlink Labs. As you can see in this diagram, capital markets need a connectivity and interoperability layer to connect to public and private blockchains. When banks and public infrastructure have their own blockchains, they're going to need a way to communicate. Just as much as state and local governments need a way to communicate with banks to send financial transactions, the same is going to have to take place in the future. And if that is occurring on blockchain networks, they're going to have to find a way to do so. This is where CCIP and Chainlink nodes come into play, because they're able to help and enhance the current financial infrastructure to communicate with existing and future blockchains. The existing banking infrastructure is kind of outdated, 40, 50 years or so, and Chainlink provides this interoperability to allow them to talk to these newer networks. So here's what they say. Why capital markets need CCIP? Chainlink CCIP helps capital markets address three fundamental problems in the near term. Number one, connecting to blockchains. Capital markets require blockchain interoperability. How do you connect bank systems that are 30, 40, or 50 years old to blockchains without having to reinvent everything? Moreover, for anyone securing hundreds of billions in a system, switching over to a new system can be a risk. Using CCIP, financial institutions can easily and securely connect their existing systems to blockchains, eliminating the need to rebuild or replace their existing infrastructure. This is what that may look like. Connecting with existing systems also provides benefits for CCIP. By integrating with existing infrastructure such as SWIFT, we do not need to get a private key in the hands of the people running banks. They have already been using private key signing devices for years through SWIFT, and their current private key signing device can be used to sign transactions that send value into the blockchain ecosystem. Again, this technology is nothing new. Public and private keys aren't anything that's just blockchain related. This also exists in how you send emails or how banks use the SWIFT systems to send messages to one another. It's even used on the web when you're interacting with web pages so that they know this is who's using their web page. So by enabling existing systems to securely and efficiently interact with blockchains, rather than by replacing those systems because they can use stuff they already have, you'll get the world working on blockchains much faster. There's no need to reinvent, just to upgrade. Number two, connecting hundreds of banks. Number two, connecting hundreds of chains per bank. Here you can see that efficiently connecting banks to blockchains via existing banking standards, where you can have thousands and thousands of chains connect to one bank using one integration, right? One Chainlink CCIP connection for all of them versus thousands of costly integrations for the same bank across thousands of chains. So you can have many, many, many different private chains, a bunch of different public chains, all connect to the same bank using Chainlink CCIP. While banks previously envisioned having their own global chain that everyone would use, they now recognize that each bank will have hundreds of chains to cater to varying asset classes and geographies. With assets and buyers split across various chains, liquidity will be fragmented across digital islands. Banks will have their own private chains, either by asset, by customer type, and because of this, they're going to have to way to interact with all of these chains simultaneously so that they're not spending time and energy on creating custom solutions so that they work for them. So what better way than to implement one protocol, one CCIP, so that all these chains can interact with one bank simultaneously? Who texted me? How will they connect with each other and to various chains for other banks? Creating thousands of costly connections between each bank is unnecessary. Instead, CCIP can serve as the universal standard that connects all bank chains, enabling liquidity to flow seamlessly between them. What's up? Like 10 minutes. I have a viewer. What's up, viewer? It's you? Where's your phone?
Downstairs.
Oh. Nice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your movement.
No, it's all good. So similar to email, where anyone with an email address can send anyone else with an address a message, any bank connected to CCIP will be able to transfer tokens and send messages to any other bank also connected to CCIP. Again, this is how a protocol works. It's a plug and play. Once you have access to the protocol, you can use the protocol in a way that anyone else on the protocol is using it. This enables banks to launch new chains and rapidly create deep markets around assets that would otherwise have low liquidity. And again, if you recall, these banks are going to have many, many different private chains for their customers, for their assets. They're also going to want to interact with public chains so they can have access to liquidity and other markets. And so to do all of this, they're going to need one protocol to interface with all of this. And Chainlink's CCIP is really paving the way for interoperability. And lastly, number three, combining value with instructions. Today, if you want to buy an asset on a different chain, you must make multiple transactions, swap various assets, use a bridge back and forth, and more. I can attest to this. This is something that I've done. I've definitely bridged assets. I've used chains where I'll have to sell and move it over, typically through a centralized exchange. It's just a nightmare. It's a mess. So instead of multiple steps and transactions, CCIP makes it possible to condense multiple steps into a single transaction. All the user has to do is send an instruction to TCP from their home chain, and it will securely make all necessary transfers and swaps. This capability not only transforms Web3, but global financial markets as a whole. This is very similar to what wallets do in the wallet if you want to swap in the wallet instead of going to a DEX, a decentralized exchange. But CCIP is taking that one step further and saying, we don't care what wallet you use. If you're going to be using CCIP, we'll make all the swaps for you and put it on the chain in your wallet that you're wanting to send it to. This capability works by combining the value and instructions together, which differs from how the global financial system works today, where value and information move separately. That's very true. You can send an asset one way, but not have the details behind the transfer in that message. You can send the asset to a different chain and tell it what it's going to do when it gets there with CCIP, which is very different than moving the asset and then telling them what you want to do in the real world, along with enabling atomic settlement and many other benefits that come with on-chain financial market workflows. This is a great graphic that's showing what this would look like, where you have a real world asset on blockchain A and they're moving it along to blockchain B without any interruption in between, and be able to transfer this seamlessly so that this asset exists on blockchain B coming from blockchain A. But once that transfers occur, you don't have duplicative assets. It is now only on blockchain B. Remaining connected to real-world information, regardless of which chain it lands on, makes tokenized assets a superior format. Chainlink solves three key problems that unlock the potential of real-world assets. Injecting information. Number one, Chainlink can provide the necessary information such as proof of reserves, identity data, real-time prices, and settlement requirements that banks, require from their customers to buy and sell tokenized assets. Number two, it enhances liquidity. Accessing the massive liquidity layer of the blockchain economy via CCIP enables thriving markets around various real-world assets. And lastly, updating assets cross-chain. Tokenized real-world assets need to be updated with proof of reserves, price, and other data even as they move across various chains, which only Chainlink can provide as it has both the necessary data and cross-chain connectivity. This is super important because you don't want duplicative assets. You don't want assets existing twice on two separate chains, because then that's not stable, that's not correct. You can't have the same asset twice. So by seeing, number one, do they have the assets there, the proof of reserves, and then moving that data across various chains so that it's moving in a safe and secure manner, in a correct manner, is something that CCIP is doing correctly and doing well. Although blockchain used by capital markets is developing at a slow that was weird. Let me redo that. Although blockchain used by capital markets is developing at a slow to moderate pace, this is an improvement. There are now dedicated digital asset teams led by senior managing directors that have key decision-making power within their organizations. We are now seeing them eager to perform blockchain transactions regionally. JP Morgan has Onyx. We saw that UBS did a pilot. So UBS did a pilot with Chainlink and Swift, and we are now seeing these major banks wanting to integrate with blockchains, integrate with Chainlink, and integrate with one another, bringing these real-world assets on chain. Given that institutions are still in the process of clearly establishing regulatory frameworks and participating in ongoing pilot regimes for tokenization, US, European, and Asian banks are all looking to transact with other banks in their local regions. Notably, CCIP is being built more and more with these requirements in mind. Looking at the bigger picture, banks coding blockchain transactions with other banks cross-chain is something that hasn't been seen before. This is a completely new stage in the adoption of on-chain finance. This is a very, very good visual. Let me see if I can make this a little bit better here. There we go. All right. So this is a very good visualization. This is showing the two separate internets of contracts that will initially exist between DeFi and bank chains. Banks will have their own private blockchains, probably multiple private blockchains for their customers, for their assets, and for other banks, right? And all the value that's in banks right now, all the trillions and trillions of dollars sitting in private banks are going to need a way to access the public markets and therefore the public chains. So if these banks want to get liquidity from the public markets or sell those assets on public markets, they're going to need a way to interface between public chains and private chains. And to do that, CCIP is just the product they need, and it is something that is situated perfectly between all blockchains and allowing these blockchains to communicate so that these assets can move freely and securely between these different types of chains, allowing for efficiency and correct settlement across chains. And this is just going into what CCIP can bring, right? The payment abstraction layer, reducing payment friction. The next thing to solve is making sure all users of Chainlink platform can efficiently interact with the system and pay value into it to gain access to additional Oracle networks, as well as have more stakers join the network to strengthen the system's security. This is why we're working on a payment abstraction layer, which will abstract away the complexity for paying for Chainlink Oracle networks while allowing Oracle networks to get paid in Link. The payment abstraction layer is something that not many projects in our industry can build because you need to know the value of the token you're getting paid in order to receive it. That requires price oracles, which Chainlink is the industry leader in. This mechanism is the right way for payments to work for many infrastructures and applications in our industry, and the payment abstraction layer may at some point in the future become its own separate Chainlink service where data oracles are used to assign value to whatever tokens users want to pay with. The payment abstraction layer is important because it reduces the friction of users paying to get access to decentralized Oracle networks. Users should be able to pay with a credit card, a bank account, a native blockchain token, a stablecoin, or their own protocol token, while the payment abstraction layer turns it into Link. Again, we know that Chainlink nodes takes Link as payment to process the transactions, to process the retrieval of data. You have to pay these nodes and Link to go get the data. But what this payment abstraction layer is saying is we want to make this process more efficient so that you aren't having to only use Link, that you can pay these nodes in whatever you want, and the nodes will automatically convert this to Link on the open market because it knows the price of your asset because it is an Oracle network, and it'll say, hey, you're giving me 5 USDC, whereas the price of Link is worth $15 per Link token. That way we're only going to give you 0.3 Link in return, and that's how much value you're going to get out of the node. Let me see something. It says it's supposed to be recording. Why is this not? Should be live. I don't know why this is happening. Okay, what is going on? Okay. Well, that's it for today while I figure this out.